I bought my mom a house, set her up early, and covered every bill without a word. At a family party, she smirked and said, "You do nothing but bring stress. I wish you were more like your brother." The same brother who's never worked a single day and still lives on her credit card. So I took back everything I gave her, and she freaked out so loud, the neighbors called the cops. "Will gives us nothing but headaches," my mother, Brenda, announced, loud enough for everyone to hear. I wish he was more like Noah. That sentence, spoken at our big family cookout, shattered everything I thought I knew about my life. One moment, I was standing there, beer in hand, happy to see everyone. The next, my entire world turned upside down. For most of my adult life, I was the quiet, reliable son. The one who picked up every late-night call, wired money without questions, showed up to every family gathering with a smile, even when my stomach was in knots. I didn't do it for recognition. I genuinely believed if you treated family right, they'd treat you the same. I thought love was reciprocal. Turns out, I was a walking wallet with a pulse. My mom raised us alone after my dad left when I was 8. She worked 2 jobs, carried herself like a hero. She was tough, but I admired her strength. The older I got, the more I wanted to repay her. So I worked hard, stayed out of trouble, got a tech degree, built a freelance business, and scaled it into something that paid really, really well. By 27, I was making 6 figures. By 30, I had my own company. I was living comfortably, and I didn't hesitate to give back. The first big thing was a house. Nothing fancy, just a cute 3-bedroom in a quiet neighborhood with a big backyard. I paid it off in cash, no mortgage. I handed her the keys and told her she'd never worry about rent again. She cried, called me her angel, her rock. I believed her. A year later, I retired her at 59. Her knees were shot from years of standing on concrete floors, and she hated her retail job. I made sure all her bills were paid: utilities, car insurance, groceries, even health insurance. Every single month, money went into her account. I got her on my new phone plan, added her to my family Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime. I thought that was love in action. That's what family does, right? Then there's my brother Noah. 2 years younger, complete opposite. Dropped out of community college. Never held a job longer than 6 months. Lived with mom well into his late 20s, sleeping until noon, gaming all night, racking up tickets and overdraft fees. No matter what mess he made, mom would swoop in. She co-signed his car, paid off his credit card debt at least 5 times. When I gently asked why he never faced consequences, she always said, "He's just going through a phase. He'll grow out of it." That phase, by the way, is still happening at 30. He still lives off her credit card, still doesn't work, still has excuses. But mom insisted he was finding himself and that I should stop comparing him to myself. I never said anything. Not really. I kept showing up, kept paying bills, kept being the good son. I didn't want to be petty or jealous. I just wanted peace. But deep down, I always hoped she'd eventually see the difference. That one day, she'd pull me aside and say, "Will, thank you for everything. I'm proud of you." That day never came. Instead, a few weeks ago at her cookout, the one I organized, paid for the catering, bought the new patio furniture she wanted, even hired someone to mow the lawn, I stood on the deck with my cousin Sophia. I heard my name being called from the backyard. I turned and saw Brenda by the grill, laughing with relatives. "Will gives us nothing but headaches," she said again, shaking her head like I was some burden. Noah never complains. He just goes with the flow. Will always has to make everything so serious. There was this pause, like the entire backyard took a collective breath, and then everyone laughed. Even Noah, leaning against the fence, soaking it in. I don't know how to describe what I felt. Embarrassment, sure, but mostly just hollow. Like something cracked open inside me and everything spilled out. All those years of late-night transfers, canceled vacations, stress migraines to make sure she was okay, just erased with one careless comment and a chuckle. I didn't say anything. I smiled, sipped my beer, and walked back inside. I needed a second, maybe more. I stood in the kitchen, staring at the fridge, listening to the laughter grow louder. For the first time, I asked myself, what am I actually doing this for? Not long after, Noah came in for another plate. He didn't even look at me. Man, you really pissed her off last week when you told her not to use your credit card for Amazon. Maybe just let her buy what she wants. That's when I knew it wasn't a misunderstanding. That crack in my chest split wide open. That was the moment something in me shifted. I didn't yell. I didn't storm out. I didn't cry. But in that instant, I decided, I'm done. If she thought I gave her nothing but headaches, I was about to show her what it really looked like when I stopped giving anything at all. The fallout was louder than I expected. I didn't leave the cookout right away, though I probably should have. I kept hearing her words on repeat. You give us nothing but headaches. I wish you were more like your brother. Each time they echoed, they took on a new shape. At first, I thought it was a bad joke. Then maybe she was trying to impress relatives. But no matter how I reframed it, it boiled down to the same ugly truth. She meant it. That wasn't a one-off comment. That was what she believed. Sophia came in, concern etched on her face. Will, are you okay? I don't think she meant it like that. I forced a smile. Yeah, I'm fine. But I wasn't. I stayed, helped clean up, did all the good son things. I didn't say a word. I wasn't angry yet. I was stunned. Stunned at how easily years of sacrifice could be erased. Stunned that no one, not even Noah, had stepped in. I realized no one ever would. 3 days passed. I didn't call. Didn't text. Didn't send the usual money transfer on the first of the month. I figured she'd reach out, ask if something was wrong, maybe even apologize. No. On the 4th day, she messaged, did the bank mess up the deposit? Not, hi, hope you're okay. Just an expectation. I was a human autopay system. When the money didn't arrive, it was a glitch. I was the problem. I stared at that message, typed a dozen bitter drafts. In the end, I wrote, no deposit this month. We need to talk first. She didn't reply. A full day passed, then 2. On the 3rd, Noah called. Rare. I almost didn't answer. What's your deal, man? He asked, defensive. Mom's freaking out because you're punishing her or something. You can't just pull stuff like that. I'm not punishing her, I said calmly. I just want a conversation, a real one. Noah scoffed. You're overreacting. She was joking at the party. Everyone laughed. It wasn't that deep. It was deep enough for her to say it twice, in front of everyone. You're being sensitive. That word hit a nerve. It's what people use to dismiss your pain. No one knew what he was doing. You know what, Noah? Tell Mom I'm happy to talk whenever she's ready to be honest. Until then, I'm stepping back. I hung up. That was the first boundary I'd ever drawn. It felt unfamiliar, not empowering yet. Just foreign, like wearing someone else's jacket. A week passed. Then, 2. Still nothing. No calls, no texts, no apology. Just silence. Then, my mom's car insurance company called. The automatic payment had been declined. Apparently, she'd given them my card number years ago. I'd forgotten it was linked. That's how many things I'd been covering. The rep asked if I wanted to update the card. I said no. Permanently remove it. The next day, a furious voicemail from Brenda. Not concern, not regret, fury. I just got a notice my insurance was canceled. What are you doing? Are you trying to ruin me? After everything I've done for you, I can't believe this. You're acting like a child. That was the moment the switch flipped. I played it back 3 times. No mention of the party, no mention of what she'd said. Just outraged that the perks were disappearing, that the free ride had hit a bump. I finally replied with a single text. If I'm nothing but a headache to you, I'll stop being one from now on. Take care of your own bills. She didn't respond. Noah did. He texted me in full-on attack mode. Paragraphs of accusations. I was abandoning Mom, selfish, only helped her to feel superior. She cried all day because of me. I was taking away her stability just to prove a point. Maybe part of that last line was true. Maybe I was trying to prove a point, but it wasn't about revenge. Not yet. It was about clarity. I wanted them to feel what it was like when the support system they took for granted stopped being automatic. When the person they ignored started acting like he mattered. That clarity didn't sit well with them. I started getting calls from extended family, aunts, uncles, saying I was hurting mom, that she was worried sick, couldn't sleep, didn't deserve this kind of treatment from her golden child. Golden child. If they only knew. It all came to a head about a month later. I stopped by the house to pick up some old boxes from the attic. I didn't want to go inside, but part of me needed closure. I knocked. No answer, so I used my spare key. I figured she might be out. What I found made my heart sink. The house was a mess. Dishes piled. Trash overflowing. Fridge nearly empty. It looked like no one had cleaned in weeks. I walked through the living room. Noah was passed out on the couch, controller in hand, a dozen Red Bull cans around him. He woke up when I opened the attic door. "Yo, what are you doing here?" he mumbled. "Getting my stuff." He sat up, rubbing his eyes. "You can't just come in like that." "It's my house," I said flatly. He froze. "You gave it to Mom." "No, I bought it for her." "That's not the same thing." He glared. "You're really pulling that now, after all these years?" "I'm not pulling anything. I'm taking my boxes and leaving." As I hauled the first one down, I heard him mutter, "This is why nobody likes you." I stopped mid-step. "What did you just say?" He stood up, arms crossed. "You think you're better than everyone just because you have money? You're not. You're a control freak. That's all you've ever been." My chest tightened. "You've been living here for free. Eating food I bought. Gaming all day while Mom covers your mistakes. And I'm the problem. She loves me because I don't throw it in her face." I laughed bitterly. "You mean she loves you because you do nothing? Because you never challenge her? Because you let her believe her lies?" He stepped closer, face flushing. "Get out." I didn't move. "Tell her I came for my stuff. Tell her I'm done being her safety net. She's on her own now." He shoved past me, slammed the front door. I didn't look back. 2 days later, something happened that changed everything. I got a fraud alert on one of my credit cards. Hundreds of dollars in Amazon purchases. When I checked the shipping address, it was hers. Not Noah's, not some hacker. My mom used my card again. Even after everything, after the fight, after the messages, after the silence, she dug up an old card number, one I hadn't used in years, and used it without asking. That's when the betrayal hit home. This wasn't just disrespect. This was theft. And it came from the one person I'd bent over backwards to help. The one person I thought I could trust. The one person who had the nerve to say I gave her nothing but headaches. That was the moment the gears started turning in my head. If she wanted to act like none of it mattered, then I was going to show her exactly how much it did. And I was going to start by taking back everything I gave her. It's strange how betrayal doesn't always hit you like a punch. Sometimes it settles in slow, like fog filling a room until you can't see what's in front of you. That's how it felt. Standing in my apartment with the fraud alert blinking, staring at the shipping address. My mom's name, my mom's street, my mom's house, the house I bought, the house I paid for. She didn't even try to hide it. No apology, no warning, just a quiet little heist right out of my wallet. She must have known I'd find out. But that wasn't the point. The point was that she didn't care. That was the moment I stopped trying to fix things. That was the moment I hit rock bottom. All those years, convincing myself my sacrifices were worth it. They weren't. Not to her, not to Noah. Probably not to half the family who still thought I was acting out because I dared to draw a line. I canceled the card, reported the charges, filed a claim. The bank refunded most of it, but something inside me stayed broken. The next few weeks were rough. I stopped sleeping, stopped eating. My work slipped. I started missing deadlines, something I never did. My employees covered for me. I'd sit at my desk and just stare, trying to understand how things got this bad. Because it wasn't just about the money or the card or even the cookout. It was about being invisible. I'd spent so long trying to earn love that I didn't realize how transactional it had become. And when the transaction stopped, so did the love. That realization cut deeper than anything else. For a while, I spiraled. Didn't go out. Didn't return texts. Ignored calls. My apartment turned into a disaster zone. Empty takeout containers, laundry piling up. I'd always thought of myself as the put-together one, the stable one. But now I was wrecked and still not one call from Mom. Not even a fake "how are you?" Just silence. Noah texted once, "You happy now?" I blocked his number. Eventually, my assistant, Rachel, pulled me aside during a Zoom meeting. "Will," she said gently, "do you want me to reschedule this week's clients?" I blinked. "What?" "No, why?" "You haven't sent over the edits for the Montgomery pitch, and you missed the strategy call yesterday." She was right. I hadn't even noticed. Rachel hesitated, then added, "You don't have to tell me what's going on, but if you need time, take it. We'll manage." That kindness almost broke me. After the call, I shut my laptop and sat in silence. Then I got up, grabbed the trash, and started cleaning. Slowly, like my body was waking up from a coma. I did the dishes, took out the recycling, ran a load of laundry. It wasn't much, but it was a start. Later that night, I went for a walk. It was cold, the kind of cold that stings your cheeks and clears your head. I left my phone at home. No music, no distractions, just me, my breath in the air, the sound of my shoes on the pavement. That walk turned into a habit. Every night, I walked a little further, thought a little clearer, and somewhere in the middle of all that movement, something started to shift. I began writing again, not for work, not for clients, but for myself. Just a notebook and a pen. I wrote everything I was feeling, the betrayal, the anger, the years I lost trying to be enough. And as I wrote, I started to see patterns. How I'd made myself small to keep the peace. How I'd tolerated insults disguised as jokes. How I'd convinced myself that giving endlessly would eventually buy me respect. And worst of all, how I'd never asked for anything in return, not even basic decency. That realization hit me like a freight train. I wasn't just hurt. I was complicit. I let it happen. I trained them to treat me this way. But now I was done. The rise didn't happen overnight. It never does. But it did happen. The first real step came when I decided to separate emotionally and legally from my mother. I met with a lawyer specializing in property law and family disputes. I laid everything out, the house, the bills, the fraudulent charges. She listened quietly, then said, "You've got more control than you think." I learned that while I'd gifted the house in practice, the deed was still under my name. I'd never transferred ownership. Part of me had always wanted to, but something held me back. Call it instinct. The lawyer raised an eyebrow. "That's good, because if you want to remove someone from the premises, you can. You're the legal owner." That sparked something. I didn't move on it right away, but the seed was planted. In the meantime, I focused on rebuilding my business, reconnecting with old clients, delegating better, creating structure. Rachel was a godsend. She handled more than I ever realized. With her help, I restructured contracts, raised rates, brought on new freelancers. Money started flowing again. Not just flowing, growing. And for the first time, I started spending it on me. I booked a weekend trip to the mountains. Stayed in a quiet cabin. No Wi-Fi, just books, coffee, and a fireplace. I didn't tell anyone where I was going. I just went, and it felt like exhaling after years of holding my breath. Back home, I started therapy. I found a guy named Robert, older, calm, the kind of voice that could talk you off a ledge without raising a decibel. He helped me unpack the emotional knots I'd tied myself into, the guilt, the people-pleasing, the fear of being unloved if I ever said no. One day, he asked, "What do you think love looks like?" I didn't know how to answer. So he asked again, "What would it look like if it wasn't transactional?" I sat in silence. Eventually, I said, "Safe." I think it would feel safe. That answer stayed with me. It made me realize that what I'd been chasing with my mom and Noah wasn't love. It was validation. And that's not the same thing. So, I stopped chasing. I didn't tell them about the therapy or the legal consult or the business wins. I didn't post anything, didn't call, didn't rub it in. Because this part of my life, it was mine. And for once, it didn't revolve around trying to win anyone over. Then one morning, weeks after that fraudulent charge, I got an envelope in the mail. No return address, just my name scrolled in handwriting I recognized immediately. A letter from my mom. For pages, handwritten. It started with, "I don't know why you're doing this to me." Not, "I'm sorry," not, "I miss you." Just blame. The letter went on to say she was struggling, the house needed repairs, Noah was doing his best, but things were falling apart. She felt abandoned. She never thought I would be the one to turn my back on family. At the bottom, she wrote, "I gave you life. The least you could do is make it easier for me to live it." That sentence stuck with me for days. Not because it was true, but because it revealed everything. She didn't see me as a person. She saw me as a utility. That was the final confirmation I needed. I folded the letter, tucked it into a folder. I wasn't going to rage or scream or throw things. No, I was going to do the one thing that scared them the most. I was going to take back control. And I already knew exactly how. By visiting my house and serving an official notice. But before I could do that, something happened that shook everything loose. Something that took the entire situation from a quiet family drama to an explosive public disaster. And it started with a call from a neighbor, a woman named Susan. I hadn't heard from her in over a year, but her message, it chilled me to the bone. "Will, I don't know how to say this, but the cops are at your house." When I saw Susan's name flash on my phone, I almost didn't answer. She was Brenda's next-door neighbor, the kind that always noticed when someone parked a little too close to the curb. But she was nice to me. She used to bring over pies. She even gave me a thank you card the week I surprised my mom with the house. So when I picked up and heard her say, "Will, the cops are at your house," I froze. "What happened?" I asked, heart pounding. "I'm not sure. They pulled up about 10 minutes ago." Loud knocking. Flashlights in the windows. Looked like they were trying to talk to your brother. He wouldn't open the door at first. My mouth went dry. Did someone call them? I don't know. I didn't, but something's going on. And listen, I probably shouldn't say this, but Noah's been having some real sketchy people over lately. Lots of noise at night, arguing. I've seen cars I've never seen before. Staying just 10, 15 minutes, in and out. That stopped me cold. I hadn't set foot near that house in almost 2 months. I'd emotionally detached myself so hard, it almost didn't feel like mine anymore. But now, with police standing on my porch, it suddenly was my house again, in every legal sense. "I appreciate the call, Susan," I said. "I'll handle it." I hung up and just sat there. That was the moment everything crystallized. The years of quiet tolerance, the slow unraveling, the way my generosity had been twisted, abused, and weaponized against me. All of it came into focus, sharp and bitter like cold wind across an open wound. And I knew right then that the time for hesitation was over. I wasn't going to ask nicely anymore. I wasn't going to wait for them to find their conscience. I was going to take everything back. And this time, I was going to do it my way. That night, I drove over. It was almost midnight when I pulled up down the street from the house. I didn't want to be seen. Not yet. I sat in my car, engine off, just watching. The house looked dark. Only the faint flicker of a TV screen lit the living room window. I didn't approach. I wasn't there to start a fight. I was there to gather information. Even in the silence, things didn't feel right. There was a strange car parked in the driveway. Not Noah's, not Brenda's. Some beat-up sedan with tinted windows and a missing hubcap. I wrote down the plate number. Then I took a few pictures. The condition of the property, the license plate, the trash in the yard, the broken porch light. It looked abandoned, or worse, like the house was rotting from the inside out. I drove home and pulled out the deed. Still in my name. No transfer, no cosigner. I was the sole owner. That was all I needed to proceed. The next morning, I made a list. 1. Consult the lawyer again. 2. File formal eviction paperwork. 3. Notify utilities and cancel all remaining accounts in my name. 4. Freeze any remaining automatic payments tied to the property. 5. Schedule a locksmith and a contractor for a full inspection post-eviction. But there was one thing I wasn't prepared for. The will. I hadn't thought about it in years. But as I pulled up old files from when I bought the house, I remembered something my lawyer had casually mentioned. If this property stays under your name, it won't pass to your mother automatically unless she's listed in a will or trust. Right now, she's a guest. Nothing more. I hadn't written a will. Back then, I was 30, young, invincible. But now I had reason to. The thought that my mother or Noah might one day inherit the very house they trashed and abused, it made my skin crawl. So I called a different lawyer, a tougher one. This wasn't just about protection anymore. It was about setting up the board for checkmate. The eviction paperwork was straightforward. There had never been a lease or rental agreement. Noah and Brenda were legally considered licensees, basically long-term guests. And as the homeowner, I had the right to revoke that license at any time. Still, my lawyer warned me. It won't be smooth. They'll fight. They might claim you gifted it. They might argue you abandoned it. But as long as your name's on that deed, we hold the high ground. Good. I wanted the high ground. Next came the utilities. I shut off the water first, then gas, then electricity. Not immediately, it takes a few days, but I scheduled everything. And I made sure the notices would be mailed directly to the house. Let them see it in black and white. Let them feel the floor shift beneath them. Then I contacted the bank that still held the insurance policy, told them to suspend coverage due to property misuse. Then the contractors. I hired a team to do a full walkthrough and inspection after the eviction cleared, just in case there was damage I could file a claim for. And then I got to work on the will. I named a charity as the sole beneficiary of the house. Should anything happen to me, I set up a living trust to bypass probate, and I added a clause: no blood relative who has previously resided in this home shall have legal claim to its contents, equity, or future sale proceeds. That felt good. No, that felt right. 3 days later, I filed the eviction. The notice had to be served in person, so I hired a process server. And here's where things got theatrical. Noah didn't take it well. According to the server, Noah answered the door in pajama pants and a gaming headset, saw the envelope, and yelled, "Seriously? From Will." The guy just said, "I don't ask questions. I just deliver." Then Noah tried to slam the door and throw the papers back, but the server had already documented the delivery. It was official. Clock started ticking. They had 30 days. 30 days to leave the house or get physically removed by law enforcement. The text came an hour later from my mom. "After everything I did for you." No explanation, no apology, just those words. I didn't reply, but that night I slept better than I had in months. Over the next week, I got bombarded. Blocked numbers, voicemails from unknown callers, Facebook messages from distant cousins I hadn't heard from in years. All of them suddenly very interested in how cruel I was being to my poor aging mother. I didn't respond to any of them. But I kept records, screenshots, voicemails, everything. Because I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was preparing for the storm, and oh, it came. Just not how I expected. See, the moment Noah and Brenda realized I wasn't bluffing, something snapped. I don't know if it was pride, panic, or pure entitlement, but they didn't try to fight the eviction legally. They tried something else. Something reckless. It started with a broken window. Susan called again, said she saw a rock go through the living room glass late one night. Cops came, but no arrests. Then 2 nights later, she called again. This time, it was louder, yelling, screaming, sirens. And that was when she dropped the bombshell. "Will, they called the cops on you." Apparently, Noah told the officers I was threatening them, harassing them, abusing an elderly woman. All lies, but loud ones. The officers didn't arrest anyone, but they documented it, which meant I had to do the same. I called my lawyer, filed a counterstatement, submitted my own evidence, and then I made the final call. I scheduled the locksmith. Not for that day, but for the day after the eviction clock ran out, the day they were supposed to be gone. And if they weren't, well, I'd already filed the motion for physical removal. Let the sheriffs handle it. Because I wasn't playing hero anymore. I was done being the good son. And if they thought they could bluff and scream their way out of this, they had no idea who they were dealing with. Because I hadn't just taken back control. I had the law, the keys, the house, and something more dangerous than any of that, a plan. The morning of the eviction, I stood across the street in my car, windows rolled up, coffee in hand, watching the house I once bought as a gift become the stage for a reckoning I never thought I'd have to deliver. 8:58 a.m. The sheriff's deputies rolled up right on time. They weren't in a rush. No sirens, just 2 officers in uniform, One male, one female, both calm and unreadable, like they'd done this 100 times. Because they had. They weren't here to play therapist or referee. They were here to enforce the law. I followed behind as they walked up the driveway. Trash littered the yard. A black garbage bag slumped open near the porch steps, contents spilling out, empty chip bags, cigarette butts, and an old pizza box with flies buzzing. The place looked worse than a frat house. The male deputy knocked. "Sheriff's Department." "Open up." No answer. The female deputy looked at her clipboard, double-checked the address, then knocked again, firmer this time. Still nothing. Then, just as she reached for her radio, the door creaked open, and there stood Noah. He looked like he hadn't slept. His hoodie was inside out, his eyes bloodshot. He blinked at them like he couldn't process what was happening. Behind him, I could hear my mother's voice echo from the hallway. "Who is it?" The female deputy raised her voice. "We're here to enforce a court-ordered eviction. You've had 30 days. That deadline has passed. You need to leave the property immediately." Noah's mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped up behind them and said, "You've got an hour." He looked over the deputy's shoulder and saw me. His expression twisted. "This is low, Will, even for you." The male deputy stepped forward. "Sir, you need to start gathering your belongings. You can bring what you can carry. If you leave anything behind, you'll need to make arrangements with the owner." Noah's jaw clenched. "We don't have anywhere to go." I stayed silent. That wasn't my problem anymore. An hour later, the front lawn looked like a yard sale gone wrong. 3 suitcases, a plastic tub of tangled cords and chargers, 2 garbage bags stuffed with clothes, 1 large flat-screen TV that Noah clearly thought he could take, even though I'd bought it. He fought hardest over that TV. "Come on," he pleaded. "You don't even use it." I shook my head. "You don't live here anymore." He muttered something under his breath, something that included the word ungrateful, but he didn't push further. Not with the deputies still there. Brenda came out next, holding her purse like it weighed 100 pounds. She didn't look at me. Not once. She just stood on the porch, jaw tight, eyes red, waiting for someone to offer her sympathy. No one did. Finally, the female deputy handed me the clearance form. "They're out. It's yours." I nodded. "Thank you." They left, and I stood alone on the porch, key in hand. I didn't say anything to Mom or Noah. I didn't gloat. I didn't smile. I simply turned and walked into my house. The smell hit me first. Rotten food, dirty laundry, something vaguely chemical. I held my breath and stepped deeper inside. The living room was trashed, couch cushions stained, coffee table covered in ash and soda cans. Someone had drawn on the wall in what looked like permanent marker, bad sketches of video game characters, names, scribbles. The hallway carpet had cigarette burns. In the kitchen, the fridge was empty except for a half-eaten rotisserie chicken and a jar of pickles. Pizza boxes were stacked on the stove like someone had been using them as plates. In my old bedroom, the one I gave to Mom, the walls were covered in sticky notes, quotes, Bible verses, rambling, paranoid notes like, "He's trying to take it all," and "My son betrayed me." I closed the door and walked out. In the backyard, I found a rusted grill full of half-burnt foil trays, a stack of broken lawn chairs, and a pile of cigarette butts arranged in the shape of a smiley face. It was a circus, but it was my circus now. I spent the next 2 weeks gutting the place. I hired a crew to do a deep clean, repaint the walls, rip out the carpet, and replace the bathroom fixtures. I told them I wanted the whole place disinfected from top to bottom. I didn't care about the cost. When they were done, it looked brand new, fresh paint, polished floors, clean air. The house looked like it had been waiting all along to be rescued. And for the first time since I bought it, it felt like mine. I didn't sell it. Didn't rent it out either. I turned it into something better. A transitional home for foster kids aging out of the system. I partnered with a local nonprofit that helps 18-year-olds who age out of foster care with nowhere to go. They needed short-term housing while the kids looked for jobs, apartments, schools. I donated the house to the program, but kept ownership under a foundation I created with my lawyer. That way, it could never be sold, never be claimed by family, never be touched by anyone except the organization I trusted. When the paperwork was signed, I stood on the porch one last time. And I smiled. Because I finally did what I set out to do from the beginning. I helped someone who actually needed it. As for Mom and Noah, she tried to sue. Filed a claim in small claims court saying I'd illegally evicted her and stolen the house. Claimed it was a verbal gift, that I promised it to her in front of witnesses. Her witnesses were 2 cousins who hadn't even been at the cookout. The judge dismissed it in under 10 minutes. My lawyer didn't even have to speak. Noah disappeared for a while after that. Susan told me he crashed on a friend's couch for a few weeks, then tried living out of his car. At some point, the car got repossessed. Mom moved in with her sister. They're not speaking anymore. Apparently, my aunt told her, "You burned the only bridge that ever tried to hold you up." I don't know if that's true, but I like the sound of it. It's been 7 months now. The house is full. 3 young adults live there, 2 girls, 1 guy, each with jobs, goals, and their own room for the first time in years. The nonprofit checks in weekly. I stop by sometimes, quietly, just to make sure everything's still in place. None of the kids know who I am. They don't need to. This wasn't about recognition. This was about redemption, not theirs. Mine. I lost my mother that day. Maybe I never really had her to begin with. But I found something else in the aftermath. Something stronger. I found peace. I found purpose. And I found out that sometimes, the best revenge isn't taking back what was stolen. It's using what they tried to ruin to build something better. What would you have done?